This promises, folks, to be a very highly charged press briefing, especially given this news that they will not release the photos. There's a precedent for releasing these kind of photos, as we well know, in the case of Zarqawi and also Uday and Qusay Hussein. Also, there were pictures that came out. They were not officially released of the hanging of Saddam Hussein. So a lot of legitimate questions are going to come up about this moments from now. While we're waiting, we have with us U.S. former White House political director Matt Schlapp. Matt, great to have you here in light of this decision that has just been made. And you well know what it's like to go through this process. This is a biggie. It's going to get a lot of attention.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a little bit surprised at the decision. I think a Secretary of Defense who oversees an intelligence agency at DOD is always reticent to give out photos or information. They always want to hold things closer to the chest. But this is a big moment for the American people. It's a big moment for the country. And I think to not release the photos will just play into those who are paranoid and conspiracy theorists. And I think eventually the Obama administration will either release these photos or leak them in some way.
But it goes to the question of why not release them, right? There's sort of two trains of thought here. And one, which I would imagine is what we're going to hear the president speak most specifically about, is in terms of the protection of U.S. troops. And that this will somehow incite people, to do violent acts against us if they see these photos. But, there's a strong argument to be made that these people are going to do whatever they can regardless, and that they have had total disregard for people's bodies, 9/11, before that and after it.
I think President Obama and his administration are going kicking and screaming into the war on terror. They came in wanting to close Gitmo. Now they're keeping it open. They're against enhanced interrogations, but now seemingly some of the evidence that led to Osama bin Laden came from those interrogations. I think the world realizes we're in a war on terror, and we are trying to do everything we can to defeat these evil terrorist forces and to kill these people who do us harm. And the idea that a photo somehow is what would incite people seems really silly. What incites people on the other side who don't believe in the American values that we stand for is the fact that we landed into this man's compound with Navy SEALs and killed him. Yeah. That is what's important here, and that's what the world needs to understand. If you take America on like you did this country on September 11th, you will have a bloody end.
Matt, let's go back, or forward, I should say, to this event tomorrow. Which is going to get quite a bit of attention. And the president's going to visit Ground Zero. This is the first time he's been there. A lot of these families have said, why has he not been there on previous anniversaries of September 11th? It should be pointed out that he went to the Pentagon to be with those people who, have obviously the same emotional claim to this event as the folks in New York. But it is significant that he has not been since the campaign, and that these families have fought very hard to get FaceTime with him and to talk about some of the things that are very important to them. How is the White House making the decision, would you expect, about who he will speak with and who he won't speak with?
These are some of the toughest questions when it comes to putting a presidential event together. I think it's a very tricky thing for him to go to Ground Zero not around September 11th, which is the traditional day in which presidents remember that dark day. The other thing with the 9/11 families is there's, great diversity in opinion amongst these families. Right. So picking who you meet with is a very tricky process. And, I wouldn't necessarily have given the president the advice to go there around this, around the death of Osama bin Laden. Well, I think that the death of Osama bin Laden is a big moment for the country. But I want to send the message, and what I encourage the president to do is to send the message that we are completely engaged in this war. And he is just one man, although an incredibly important person to eliminate in this war. He's just one man, and we still have to do everything it takes as a nation to
Matt, to that point, I'm sorry to interrupt, but he invited President Bush to be there. He has declined. Rudy Giuliani, it's not clear whether or not he will be there, but it does appear that the White House made an effort to be very inclusive in this event.
Yeah, no, I don't criticize them for not being bipartisan. I think it was the right thing to do to reach out and invite these Republicans. I think it was the right thing for President Bush to decline. I think this is not, well, I just don't think it's a moment for political grandstanding. And I also think President Bush has done a good job of allowing President Obama. He is the elected president of all of us. He's our president, and he has a right to have great leeway on these areas. I think he's supportive of the effort, and Vice President Cheney has said he was supportive of this operation to kill Osama bin Laden. But there's only one president, and at these moments when these types of momentous things happen, we all stand with them. But then you come to a question of how a president highlights these issues, and I'm not so sure going to ground zero is what I would have recommended.
Hey, I know a lot. I've spoken to some of the family members, and they're waiting to find out. They're on a list. They've requested to be there. They're not sure if they're going to get in. So I'm fascinated by how they're going to choose who's in and who's out. And you have to wonder, if your name is on a list as somebody who didn't want the mosque near ground zero, for example. Would you have this opportunity? It's an open question, and we'll see. Matt, thank you very much. Interesting to talk to you. A lot of big decisions being made in the Oval Office these days, so good to have you.